budget. House Budget Committee Chair Paul Ryan and Senate Budget Committee Ranking Member Jeff Sessions answering reporters' questions. This is just getting underway.
It's threatening our way of life. It's threatening our economy. And we know we need to do something about it. And everybody, whether you're right or left, knows the sooner you tackle these problems in America, the better off everybody is. Our problem is we are running out of road to keep kicking this can down. And so what did we just get today? We got a punt. The president punted on the budget, and he punted on the deficit and on the debt. That's not leadership. That's an abdication of leadership. Americans expect their presidents to lead. They expect the presidents to take on the country's biggest challenges. And arguably the biggest domestic challenge, perhaps in the history of this country, is this crushing burden of debt that is coming our way. Now, many people thought, ourselves included, that the president would moderate after this past election. People call this triangulation. This is not a moderate budget. This is not a triangulation budget. This is a budget that went to the left. It would be better doing nothing than if we would actually pass this budget for the sake of our economy, for the sake of our future, and for the sake of jobs. We all have to remember that today's big deficits means tomorrow's big tax increases and interest rate increases. This costs us jobs. This hurts our economy. This tells small businessmen and women, this tells all businesses and entrepreneurs that the more we borrow and spend today, the higher their taxes are going to be tomorrow. The higher interest rates are going to be for them to borrow to expand their businesses. This is going to hurt us in our ability to get out of this recession, to create the kinds of jobs we need to create and get the kind of economic growth we have to create to not only help our fiscal situation, but to help our economy and to help get Americans back to work. I'll just quickly go through what this is. See that we have a tidal wave of debt. President's budget, as you can see right here, doubles the debt within 5 years of his taking office and triples it by the end of his budget in 10 years. This budget has a $1.6 trillion tax increase in it. So not only did the president get a lot of tax increases in the last 2 years, about $700 billion, he's looking for more tax increases on the American people, on the American economy, on small businesses, on families, on entrepreneurs. People like to talk about spending, and we're hearing the word freeze being thrown around. Spending goes up every year. $8.7 trillion in new spending. $13 trillion in new borrowing over this budget. Now, smoke and mirrors have been done by Republicans and by Democrats in the past. And so we've seen budget gimmicks from both political parties, from White Houses in the past. This year contains a pretty good doozy. It basically assumes that we're going to be at Afghanistan and Iraq levels for the next 10 years like we are today. We're going to have a 10-year Afghanistan surge. We're going to be at the current levels for 10 years. Everybody knows that's not true. The president's already pre-announced his withdrawal dates from these excursions, and he's basically saying, so if we're not there for 10 years, we're going to actually ramp down spending with withdrawals, and that will save us $1.1 trillion. When you pull aside the curtain and look at all the smoke and the mirrors, it looks like to me that this thing has about $8 of tax increases for $1 of spending cuts, not $2 of spending cuts for $1 of tax increases. So we've looked at these numbers, and these numbers are very, very clear. You really cannot borrow and spend and tax your way to prosperity. But unfortunately, that is exactly what this budget does. Let me simply close by saying this. I served on the President's Fiscal Commission that he created this last year. It was a pleasure to do so. I have problems with some of the Fiscal Commission's reports and findings. I, along with others like Alice Rivlin, put out alternative plans out there. But the President, in suggesting the Fiscal Commission, gave people like me the idea that we were going to move the ball in the right direction, that was a constructive step in the right direction. This is a punt. This doesn't even include any of the significant recommendations from the Fiscal Commission. In fact, discretionary spending is $353 billion above the levels recommended in the Fiscal Commission. So the Fiscal Commission gave us hope that we were going to finally have that adult conversation in Washington about how we preempt our debt and deficit crisis. Unfortunately, this budget does none of it. This budget ignores the problems. This budget does more spending, more taxing, more borrowing. And at the end of the day, if we don't turn this around, that's going to cost us jobs. It's going to cost us prosperity. And it's going to cost our country its credibility.